Let's talk now about white balance in filmmaking. Now I'm going to assume you have a basic understanding of white balance here. We work in Kelvin in exactly the same way as in the stills world, except we tend to avoid at all costs using auto white balance. Why is that? Well, auto white balance on stills is fine because you're going to bring each still back into Photoshop or Lightroom and adjust it to get the colours looking the way you wanted within your calibrated system. In filmmaking, you can point the camera one way and get one colour temperature, point the camera another way, get an entirely different colour temperature, try and cut those two together as a seamless sequence and find you've got real problems in post-production trying to match the colours. So consistency is what we're always looking for. So my rule of thumb is never ever use auto white balance in filmmaking. There are only two modes, actually three modes that I'd use in filmmaking: tungsten, daylight, or custom. So let's show you them and how to access them in the menu. So to select white balance, you simply press this button here. That disengages everything else on the display, and then you can use the wheel on the back of the camera to select the different options. Now these options on this level of the screen may not mean a great deal to you, but on the rear of the screen things are much clearer. Let me explain. The first option you have is auto white balance. As I said, try and avoid using auto white balance at all costs. The next is your daylight option. This is useful for just straightforward consistency in daylight. The next option is shade. Shade I would avoid. Cloudy also. The next option is tungsten. That's fine for any tungsten light shots indoors. White fluorescent light, again, I tend to stay away from that. Flash, of course, you don't use flash when you're in movie mode. Custom, again, I would stay away from custom white balances, generally speaking. The next one I would think about looking at is Kelvin, and that's where you set the Kelvin degrees exactly as you want them. So in summary, if you're shooting video, there's only three colour balances you need to worry about: tungsten, daylight, and setting the Kelvin scale manually based on what you see in the monitor. Everything else you do is in post-production. You want to get consistency on location so that when you sit down in post-production and colour grade your film, which is essentially the Photoshop version of what photographers do, but in video, then you match things up, balance colours out. If you have too many variables on location, you end up with a mountain of headaches in post-production.